Okay, this is a look at River Phoenix in '93. Well, it's more of a E interview or E Inside News kind of reflection more than anything, but just trying to get a backdrop on him after his passing. He had recently passed here. So here we go.
It was just over a month ago that 23-year-old actor River Phoenix stumbled out of this trendy sunset nightclub known as the Viper Room and died of a massive drug overdose. Paramedics found him on the sidewalk.
He didn't have a heartbeat, didn't have a pulse.
Ever since his debut as a child star in the movie Stand By Me, River Phoenix has carved out a place for his talents, playing the young Indiana Jones, a troubled teen in My Own Private Idaho, and a computer whiz kid in Sneakers. Very few in Hollywood had risen this far, this fast. Besides the clean-cut Hollywood image, River Phoenix had a different side. A side that was tormented by inner demons, which eventually drove him to self-destruct.
I knew a part of him that no one else really knew, and that was the part of him that used drugs.
Meet Rick Riojas, a musician and former heroin addict. Riojas claims he met River Phoenix in a studio jam session. Along with being an actor, Phoenix was also a guitarist for a band called Alika's Attic.
I think he used heroin when he played. I think he was more relaxed and more calm playing when he was high.
Although Riojas has no proof or witnesses, he claims River approached him to buy drugs.
He would ask you for drugs.
Yeah, he would ask me.
Heroin?
Yeah. I couldn't see why he didn't go anywhere else, but
So
he said
basically he would come over with money,
yeah,
and he wanted you to supply him with drugs.
and that was basically it.
Riojas then went on to tell us that the first time he did heroin with River, the young actor just didn't seem to know what he was doing.
First of all, of course he did, because he was young. Second of all, you got to think to this point, this young man has a squeaky clean image, partly portrayed by him and partly what other people thought of him. And so, of course, you know, when he's coming into things, he's not going to know what they are. But I think that I'm not sure if we've heard reports of him drinking and so on and so forth. I think a lot of the things that his mom was saying is that, you know, he was never a drug user or a heavy alcohol abuser. But maybe just some things that really pressured him made him more prone to doing those things, looking for an outlet to really not only relax, but to feel free and like you're not putting on a mask and that you're open to be yourself. And so I can go into this club and I can play with people who I feel are my friends and people who I feel I can be myself around. And that's what he was trying to do.
Well, he didn't know how to hit himself, so to speak, you know.
What do you mean by hit?
You know, inject himself with the needle and stuff.
You showed him how to inject the heroin into his arms?
And, yeah, he wanted to know.
So did he?
Yeah,
In front of you, shot up with heroin?
yeah. Quite a few times, actually.
And according to Riojas, over a period of 3 years, Phoenix would become a steady customer. And one night, River traveled over 6,000 miles just to buy drugs.
He flew in. When he got to my house, I found out that it was from New York. He got it. It was just hi, bye, boom, boom. He left. Where are you going? I'm going back to New York. And he just took off.
He was so unhappy with his life that he continued with the drug abuse until it got so bad that he finally died.
We'll call him Tom, not his real name, but Tom claims to be a close friend of River and his family for a number of years. Tom says River had a squeaky clean image as a vegetarian and a shy private person.
Well, I suppose you can meet with someone and say, hey, you know, we think the same way, we like each other's work, let's do something. I guess, there's that kind of talk that goes on.
But he was a walking contradiction in terms of his own health.
How bad was his drug problem?
He looked very bad. He looked yellowed. His skin was jaundiced. His hair was hanging in his eyes. He was slurring his speech.
Tom says even Rivers' parents could not stop his spiral into the world of drugs. In an open letter to the Los Angeles Times, Rivers' mother, Hart Phoenix, wrote, "River was not a regular drug user. He was never part of the club scene in L.A."
His parents had absolutely no influence on his life.
The only strong...
That's not true. That's not true at all. Based on previous interviews that we just saw, we know that they did have an influence on his life, number one. Number two, because he talked about very directly how they were like, hey, do this open call. You need to go to bed for this reason. You need to go to bed for this reason. And the third. And so there was influence there. Why do I say that? Why do I say that there was influence there? There was influence because he talked about not liking how his parents would say, do this because I said so. He didn't like that. And that pertained to his acting life, right? And so what you're seeing here, when we see him acting and whatnot, there was a push from his parents to be responsible, be an adult, conduct yourself as an adult. Don't go out and have fun with other kids. Maybe opportunities that you cannot take advantage of because you have, casting calls to do. And so from there's an influence. Why? Because he takes his own thoughts of, I don't want to do this. It's kind of like telling your kid they can't play the game and they always want to play the game. So guess what? When they grow up and they get money and they get a job, what's the first thing they're going to go do? They're going to go buy an Xbox and a big TV and they're going to play the game to their heart's content. That's influence. So when you feel under stress and under pressure and you're just wanting to be free, there is a push toward, when I get away from my parents and I get the freedom to buy whatever plane ticket I want to buy, if this is to be believed, what they're saying, that he flew over 6,000 miles, I am going to fly and take advantage of whatever I can do to feel free. If this is something that makes me feel free and takes the weight and the pressure off of me, then I'm going to do it. So there's an influence there.
Influence in Rivers' life came from his former girlfriend, actress Martha Plimpton, claims Tom. The couple starred in Running on Empty, a film that garnered Phoenix an Oscar nomination at the age of 21.
They were very happy together. And I think it was the drugs that started to take effect that changed his personality, and that was one of the reasons that Martha pulled away.
And the lure of a bigger high seemed to call out to River. When he asked Rick Riojas if he could get a mixture of heroin and cocaine, commonly referred to as a speedball.
I don't know. I was totally against that. I don't know if it sounds weird, like I have standards or something, but
right.
I do. I think it's a really bad high. It's a bad trip. I try to talk to
Right. That's where we stop, at the mixture.
him about it.
Riojas claims that was the last time he saw Phoenix alive. He himself checked into a drug rehab program and now claims to be clean. But River died 6 months later from a drug overdose of a speedball.
You were the guy that supplied him. You're partly to blame for what's happened
Right.
to him. Don't you feel guilty at all?
Partly to blame for what happened to him. River ran his own life. He did his own thing, and if it wasn't going to be me, it was going to be someone else.
That's not true. That's not true at all. This gentleman doesn't know whether or not, it's lack of accountability there. This gentleman doesn't know. River could have definitely gone down that path. But you don't know if you could have been the voice to say, hey, kid, you don't want to come down this road. Because the way River was needing support. He was needing guidance from people. And so no doubt River is coming to you as a young kid, right? And when I say young, he could have been 18 or what have you, 19, even 21, 20, whatever. But what I'm saying is that River is coming to you and he's saying, man, look, this Hollywood thing is just getting to me. Do you got anything that people say that this can help me? Do you got anything that can help me? And your thing is like, hey, man, I have this drug that can take the edge off. Right. And what you're saying to him is that this is the answer. You don't know his psychological struggles or distress that he's dealing with. all you don't know it is to recommend him to a therapist or some sort of support or help, or, talk any kind of other reasonable approach into him other than to say, shoot up off of this. Right. And so you could have been like, hey, kid, I use this stuff. You went and saved yourself and checked into a drug rehab a facility and saved yourself. Whereas you sort of walked this or ushered this kid in to a lifestyle that you yourself were about to get out of. Right. Why did you? And then you say, if it wasn't me, it would have been somebody else. Not true, because you could have been the person to say, look, man, I don't think you want to do this. There's nothing down here for you. Deal with it this way. And that could have been, maybe River would have persisted through and said, well, what else do you recommend? But this is why I say that, or he may have listened. This is why I say that, because if we can look at River is he's very conscious, right? He's very logical. He thinks things through. And he's very calculated. And so he's looking at you, and he very naive in that he trusts people very quickly, and he sort of wears his heart on his sleeve. Right. And you can tell that by looking at his face. And so he's very calculated, but very emotional in that sense of trusting people and giving his trust to people unless you break it. And so he gave his trust to this gentleman. If the story is to be believed, he gave his trust to this gentleman, hoping to be taken care of and supported. And I think what we are seeing here is that he just was not supported appropriately through these issues. Nobody was asking the questions. He was telling us, but nobody was asking the questions that we needed to ask in order to get him the help that he needed. And that's unfortunate. And that was Johnny Depp's club. And I think for a little while, and think until 2004 or something like that. And Johnny sold his shares or a stake in it. But every year, I think the story goes, he would shut down on the day of River's passing. He would shut down the club for that day. So that's the story. That's the video. That's the coverage on River. If you want more coverage, let me know. I'll be happy to do it with whatever I can find. Yeah, that's the story. Like, share, subscribe, comment, engage. Let me know what you think. Let me know your thoughts. And until next video, take it easy.